It's time for the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. Stay tuned as we discuss local and national sports from Southeast Missouri and beyond. The Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle is brought to you by Royal Retros. If you like cool throwback jerseys of defunct sports teams, Royal Retros is the place to buy. If you go to royalretros.com and you order with the code SPORTSDESK, all one word, you can get a little bit off your order. So check out Royal Retros. And now on with the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders, basking in a Vikings first week victory.
And I am basking in the glory of a Los Angeles Rams victory. This is Kyle Roberts, K-Rob in the house.
And all I'm basking in is the fact that the Titans only lost by a touchdown. Because we suck.
Well, there might be hope on the horizon. Let's not throw in the towel after week one. That's what I was telling myself for the first three quarters last night, but we'll get back to that later on in the show. We're going to open today with high school football. Mike, what's going on in Southeast Missouri?
Well, last week we had a full slate of games. The Poplar Bluff Mules had their home opener against Chaminade. That was a very close, hard-fought battle, but Chaminade scored the tie-breaking touchdown with about a minute or less to go and came out with a 14-7 win.
That's a very low-scoring game.
Yes. Meanwhile, the Dexter Bearcats went over to Sykeston and played a much-improved Sykeston Bulldogs team and came away with a 39-24 win.
Yeah, Dexter's looking like they have their sights not only on repeating as a district title, but going and making some noise in the state playoffs.
That would be good. The Donovan Dons went to Houck Stadium in Cape Girardeau and took on the Saxony Lutheran Crusaders. Saxony came away with a 35-7 win. In basically two programs that are still getting off the ground. The Dons have been around a few years, but they played JV last year and, still seem to be kind of getting their ship right. I got a few more thoughts I'm going to offer on that in a minute when we talk about this coming week's games.
Yeah, I think, Donovan, they're moving in the right direction. I think they've got the right coaching staff, but they are going to need a few more years of development and getting some more of their local athletes in that program before they can compete consistently. But I think the arrow is pointed upward over in Donovan.
I think so too. Mark, you were at Hayti last week, right?
Yeah, that was an amazing game. In that Hayti turned the ball over 8 times and still managed to win that game. They're playing Portageville. Portageville doesn't really have any sort of a passing game to speak of. So once Hayti figured out how to stop their running game. But really the only reason Portageville was in that game was because of all of the Hayti turnovers. Their running back, Isaiah Love, is simply amazing. Portageville had no answer for him. And if they could have held on to the ball, Love might have scored 6 or 7 touchdowns. And I'm not exaggerating.
Oh, wow. Wowzers. Some other games in the area, I may miss a few. If I do, I apologize. One game that really stood out is Kelly pulled the upset of Scott City Chaffee, beating the Rams 16-14. Also, Jackson got a really nice win over Louisville Ballard out of Kentucky. I don't remember the final score, but that's a big win for Jackson. I'll have a couple of thoughts on them in a bit coming up. Cape Central got another win. They beat St. Charles West. Farmington, who the Mules play Friday, they won again. They are 2-0. Let me see here. Kennett lost at Paragould. I believe Crothersville got a big win over Malden. And
that Malden program is in real trouble. I mean, those are back-to-back shutout losses, and they're going to be taking on Charleston this weekend. And so I'm really concerned about what's going to happen with them this season.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Coming up this week, the Poplar Bluff Mules are making the trip to Farmington to take on the Knights. It'll be the first SEMO conference game for both teams. That one's going to be interesting. On one hand, Farmington is 2-0. They have 2 pretty nice wins. They are being led now by former Jackson coach Brent Eckley. On the other side of the coin, Poplar Bluff looked really good against Farmington last year. The Mules have looked better than some expected. I thought they played Valley View pretty solid. Chaminade is not a bad program. So this one could be interesting.
Yeah, they lost a close game at home last season, sort of like the midpoint of the season to Farmington, and then they went on to just completely dominate the Knights in the first round of the district playoffs last year. So I think that's going to tell us a lot about what the Mules are going to look like this season. Farmington's going to be a tough test, and if they can hang with them, I think that's going to be a good sign. But if they drop to 0-3, obviously that's going to be problematic for the program.
It's going to be interesting. I think one thing that happens, win or lose, is that the Mules have came on really strong late in the season the last couple of years. I could see that happening again because Poplar Bluff's schedule the last few years has been very front-loaded. They've got Jackson coming up on the 26th. After they play Farmington this week, they are going to Cape Central on the 19th. So it will be interesting.
Yeah. So what else is coming up this weekend that you wanted to talk about?
Dexter is playing New Madrid County Central. I think Dexter's going to win that game. It will be an interesting test because New Madrid does do a pretty good job of running the football. They are 1-1. Their only loss coming to Cape Central week 1. But like I said, I would be a little bit surprised if the Dexter Bearcats don't move to 3-0.
Yeah, I mean Dexter, they've got a really excellent head coach who's put together a really good program right now. After 2 games, they're scoring an average of 50 points while only giving up 12 points. So their defense is really playing top flight. On the other hand, NMCC is scoring 25 points a game, but they're giving up 30.5 points, sitting at 1-1 with a home loss and their win coming on the road. So, we'll see what Dexter looks like on the road over at New Madrid County Central.
It's going to be interesting, and the Donovan Dons are headed to Kelly this week. Kelly's coming off a big win over Scott City Chaffee. I think Kelly's got to be the clear favorite in this game.
Taking a look at the matchups. Oops, I pressed the wrong button. Now we're looking at the junior high matchups. We're definitely not interested in that. So, we'll take a look at that. I don't know where Kelly is. Where the heck is Kelly?
Benton.
Where the heck
Kelly
is
Benton?
Oh, Benton, like north of Sykeston, huh?
Yeah, it's a Scott County high school.
Yeah, that's a long trip for Donovan. I don't know. If Donovan plays the way they did in their home opener, I think that they can. I think that they can compete with Kelly. The problem with Donovan right now is their defense, because their average scoring is at 26, but their defense is giving up 35 points a game on average. And going back to their home opener, a lot of those points that they surrendered were due to mental mistakes. So much at the high school level really is just the mental mistakes, because, unless you've got, like that, pro football player who's already on the field at Nixa, unless you've got like a 5-star college recruit on your team, the physical skills, especially down here in these class 2, 3, and 4 schools, is pretty much the same. So it comes down to coaching and execution, and that is all just a matter of being where you're supposed to be and taking on the assignments as you've been coached, and just being disciplined and not making stupid teenage mistakes like throwing a punch when you get hit out of bounds or something like that. These players are they're emotional, they're caught up in the moment, and you just have to learn to control that, because next thing you know, your team's been penalized 15 yards and you've just handed the momentum back to the other side.
Exactly. A couple of thoughts at Donovan, looking at their schedule, coming up the next few weeks. Kelly's going to be a tough team, but the good news is they do have some easier opponents coming up.
Yeah, they're going to be, I think they're going to Malden next week. They've got a game with Malden.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, next week. They've got a game with Malden coming up.
That's a winnable game.
Yeah, well, I have no idea what they're going to find at Missouri Military Academy. That's not the one in Mexico, is it?
Yes, it is, and that's a game, honestly, that Donovan should win. I took a look ahead at the Don's schedule. Malden, is a team that's won one game the last 3 or 4 years. Missouri Military Academy is in a similar situation. East Prairie's 0-2. They played New Manor close last week, but they got beat pretty bad by Scott City opening week. They've been giving up a lot of points this year. Portageville, is 0-2. That's a game
that's a winnable game. Yeah, it's a home game too.
Granite City, is interesting. They're one of the larger schools in Illinois. I think maybe one of the larger schools in the St. Louis metro area. But that Granite City program has really, really struggled the last few years. I think they are on about a 24 or 25 game losing streak, and they Yeah, and Granite City has not just been losing football games; they have been losing them very bad. Coming into last week's game at Marion, which I haven't seen the score of, I think the closest game Granite City had played since the middle of the 2022 season was like 42-18 last year against Mount Vernon. Other than that, they've been getting mercy ruled every single week.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely a favorable schedule for Donovan, and that's what they really need. It's just the momentum of a winning season. Even if it's just, I'm not going to do the math, 6-5 or 5-4. However many games it is that they play.
I agree, and the thing is with Donovan, I would say this team has, they're 1-1 right now. I would say they have a chance, to maybe get, maybe end up 5-5, maybe even if things go really good, 6-4 this year. And for this program, since the Dons came back in 2018, their winningest season was 4 years ago. At 2-8. Well, their winningest season at the varsity level, was 2-8. So but the good thing is that's how you build momentum. If you get wins, you're going to get interest. You're going to get more kids out. So I do like that. I've said before that I think Donovan and Saxony have both scheduled very wisely. Saxony has a very similar schedule to Donovan. I was, looking ahead. I think Saxony's got a good chance to start 4-0 because they both have winnable games coming up. I believe Saxony is over at Sparta, Illinois, and that Sparta program got its first win on opening night for the first time since 2021. And Saxony's got a lot of opponents like that. And if you're starting out, if you're basically the high school equivalent of an expansion team, that's what you need. You don't need to be playing CBC in Jackson every week.
Nobody needs to play Jackson. That's a mission impossible. Do we have anything else to say about high school football? Because I have a mighty need to talk about J.J. McCarthy, like right now.
Sure you do.
We will get to J.J. in just a minute. I do want to touch base on a couple of other games real quick. Jackson is headed to Edwardsville this Friday. Edwardsville's 0-2 and has been a real thorn in Jackson's side. One of my sports writer buddies, who's a Jackson alum, told me that that Edwardsville is to Jackson what Valley View is to Poplar Bluff. The constant thorn in the side. And the big thing with that game, I think if Jackson wins that game, they are probably going to have an undefeated regular season because after that game, it's a pretty easy run for Jackson. Apologies to my Poplar Bluff Mules, but I really think if Jackson wins Friday, they're going to go undefeated in the regular season.
Well, I like their chances. Edwardsville is currently sitting at 0-2. They're scoring 26 a game, which is comparable to Jackson's 27.5, but the Indians' defense is only giving up 15, while Edwardsville is giving up an average of 50 points in their first two games. So that bodes pretty well for Jackson's chances.
It's going to be interesting, but we're going to talk more high school football next week, and we're going to take a quick break and come back and let Mark talk about J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings here on the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. This is Mike Bueller, and you are listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. And welcome back to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle. I'm Mike Bueller, and Mark Sanders here is chomping at the bit to talk about his Minnesota Vikings, who and he's earned it. They pulled off a really nice come from behind win last night, which we're taping on Tuesday morning. So, Mark, go.
Yeah, we have been waiting. We've been waiting in Minnesota for effectively 2 years to see what J.J. McCarthy would look like as our starting quarterback. And what he looked like was a quarterback who had never played a regular season game in the NFL, and that's what he looked like for the first 3 quarters. Now, he did have a good drive towards the end of the first half. He made a really good pass to Jalen Naylor that led to a 59-yard field goal from Will Reichert. Go Big Leg Bill. So the score was 10-6, but unfortunately, he threw a terrible pick in the third quarter. The Bears cornerback Nashawn Smith ran back 74 yards for a pick-6 TD. That put the Bears up 17-6 late in the third quarter. And, of course, Vikings fans all over the world are thinking, well, same old Vikings. This is what happens when you're a fan of the purple and gold. But I want to tell you a little story now about who J.J. McCarthy is. All right. Many of you, if you're our age, remember the movie The Matrix, the original Matrix from 1999, in which Morpheus, played by Lawrence Fishburne, identifies Keanu Reeves' character Neo as the one who he's been looking for all along, and Neo doesn't believe it, and he's pretty ordinary. He doesn't look like he doesn't make the successful jump between buildings, and he's just resistant. He even goes and sees the Oracle, and it tells him, you're not the one, kid. And that's definitely what it looked like for the first 3 quarters. But there's a point in the movie where Morpheus is captured by the machines, and Neo goes in with a lot of guns, and he rescues him, and then he does this amazing escape and rescue on a helicopter. And there's a moment in that movie where Morpheus is looking at him, and he can't believe what he's seeing. And he's like, he is the one. And that was the fourth quarter moment last night. It's like somebody is like, oh, no, can't believe we drafted this guy. I can't believe. And then he comes out in the fourth quarter. He throws a dart to Justin Jefferson for a touchdown. They get the ball back. He rainbows the ball in between 2 defenders on the goal line to Aaron Jones for the second touchdown, and then they get the ball back a third time. Kudos to the Vikings defense for feeding the ball back to JJ 3 times in a row, and then he just has this amazing play where he follows TJ Hawkinson on a designed run, quarterback keeper, dives across the goal line to score the third touchdown. That put the Vikings up at this point. And again, they have come back in the fourth quarter. They've come back from down 17-6 to up 27-17. And it was at this moment where Vikings Nation all looked at him and said, he is the one. Now, does this mean does this mean we're going to win the Super Bowl this year? Of course not. It doesn't mean that. Does it mean we're ever going to win a Super Bowl? No, it doesn't. But it does mean this. He's everything that we thought he was. He has the capabilities with his arm, with his legs, with his brain, with his leadership to lead this team to places that they haven't been since the 1970s. J.J. McCarthy, you are the one.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Quick look ahead. Who do your guys have this week?
Wait a minute. Before we go any further, I want Kyle to have a chance to crow about that ugly win that the Rams got over a Titans team that doesn't look very good this year. Not Titans, I'm sorry. I was confused.
Oh, that's next week.
No, a Texans team that actually, I think the Titans looked better than the Texans. The Texans did not look good at all. Kyle?
Well, C.J. Stroud is starting to get into that seeing ghost thing. I don't know what it is with the Houston Texans and their inability, no matter who their quarterback is, to be able to protect them. I digress. You're facing our pass rush. I saw footage of Jared Verse getting the Aaron Donald treatment in year 2, triple teamed.
Wow.
Okay. So, yeah, we got us a Myles Garrett in the making, but I actually did not expect this game to be high scoring because we were a middle tier defense. Our struggles are on the back end, but Houston was a top 7 defense last year in total yards allowed. And their pass rush is as filthy as ours is with Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson. I didn't think this would be a high scoring game. Yeah, it was ugly, but I'll take the win because those are the kind of resourceful wins that you need. And I still think Houston's going to win the AFC South by default because, but
Indianapolis. I mean, come
okay.
on.
No,
Look. Miami's terrible, but my gosh, nobody expected that from Daniel Jones last week.
Danny Dimes had that offense running efficiently. He was the first Colts quarterback since Prime Sheriff to lead the Colts on 4 consecutive scoring drives to start a game.
Seven. He scored. Over the course of the whole game, he scored every time he had the ball. 7 consecutive offensive drives ending in scores.
Daniel Jones didn't even do that at Duke. But yes, they're playing against Tua turning the ball over and the Miami Dolphins. By the way, and Rex Ryan was quoted as saying that he believes that Mike McDonald, he called him nerd boy, should be fired. But that sounds like something Orion would say.
Yeah, I mean that's not even a hot take. Mike McDonald is going to be the first head coach fired in season this season. I mean,
as soon as he is, the first person that's going to yell at him is Ogre from Remember the Nerds. Nerd. But back to our game again, it wasn't pretty, and I didn't expect it to be. Plus, we're still getting Devontae Adams acclimated, getting Puka, and Matthew John Stafford on the same page. So no, you know what? It's all right. I'll take it. It's a gritty, tough win at home against a possible playoff team. But we're gonna put a 50 burger on Mike's Titans next week. So you know.
Oh my goodness. I will take some of that action. I will take the under on the 50 because the Titans defense held the Broncos to just 20 points, and really that last touchdown came late. So and
have
right
you looked
now,
at the Broncos receiving core though? Good Lord.
I would pick head to head. I would pick the Broncos over the Rams at this point in the season.
It's going to be interesting. Okay. I do have a few thoughts on my guys. Good news and bad. First, the good news. Our defense looked really good. We picked Bo Nix off a couple of times. We kept that game really close. I mean, if you had, it was a 1-possession game the entire way. Honestly, I did not expect it. I figured there was a good chance we were going to go in there and get tub thumped. I figured it would be something like maybe 38-12, and it was only 20-12. Cam Ward definitely had his moments. And like I said, we played more respectable. The bad news, our offense, aside from Ward, looked atrocious. Now, I will be fair. I think some of that had to do with a very nasty, tough Denver defense. But, our left tackle, I believe Dan Moore, did not have a good day. J.C. Latham went out in the fourth quarter with an injury.
Calvin Ridley dropped a bunch of passes that he should have caught.
Oh, I hadn't even got to him yet. But when Latham went out on the right side, we couldn't do spit after that. And that was basically the end of the game for us in hindsight. And like you said, Ridley, who's we're counting on to be our number 1 receiver and was one of my starting receivers in fantasy. Ridley.
Oh, shut up about the fantasy.
That's because I beat Mark in fantasy and I beat him pretty bad.
Day,
he beat the pants off of me. I mean, it was like one of those old cartoons where like Mike sweeps through me and I'm left just like with a barrel on a pair of suspenders covering my midsection. That was a brutal beatdown is what it was.
And that was even with Ridley having a dog awful day.
Well, I was stupid enough to pick Xavier Worthy as my wide receiver too, and he gets hurt on like the 5th play of the game. Dum-dum.
Yeah, not that it would have mattered.
No.
But the thing is, and I'll lead into talking about next week's games because Kyle, you queue up on. Kyle's already laid the smack down that he thinks the Rams are going to hang up 50 on my guys. I don't think that. I thought our defense looked good enough this past Sunday, and that the Rams' offense did not look fiery enough. I would be surprised if the Rams hang up 50. I will not be surprised, however, if the Rams go into Nashville and win that game and win it by a couple of touchdowns, because we are still the Tennessee Titans. I think we're going to be better this year, but the schedule does not do us any favors, so I don't know how much that is going to show up in our record. Still absolutely rooting for Cam Ward. I think there are some positives. I'm taking this loss better than some of Titans Nation is. Some of my fellow Titans fans took this one pretty bad. It's like, guys, look how bad we've been the last 2 years. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah. I think the Titans are likely to make this a competitive game, but they just don't have the roster to hang with the Rams. And, again, as long as Los Angeles's offensive line can keep Stafford upright, I think the Rams probably win this game by 6 or 7 points.
At least. Kyle, any more thoughts?
Not really. I mean, I look forward to, going into Nashville and ruining Cam's, respectfully, as I like Cam Ward, ruining his home opener. But I will tell you this, I will eat the biggest pile of crow if for any reason y'all find a way to beat us. But I trust Sean McVay all the time,
yes.
all the way.
Speaking
of
okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to, speaking of crow, I've got a great big suck it to send out to Colin Cowherd for his ice cold take about J.J. McCarthy's not the real guy. They're protecting him. I will give Colin credit. He went on his podcast after the game and actually praised McCarthy's performance in the fourth quarter. And to be fair, McCarthy did play like crap until after that interception. But he really turned it around in the fourth quarter, and Colin gave credit where credit is due.
Good deal. Before we dive into this week's games coming up and talk about some more stuff, I want to tell Kyle, if we beat you guys Sunday, I will put the hot sauce on that plate of crow.
But just hold on to that bottle because that ain't happening. But hey, I'm a man. I'm a man of honor.
Hey, you stepped up and did the hot wings challenge back in the day, so you are no stranger to hot sauce.
Yes, that was a memorable one. Back when we used to have the old radio show, we did NCAA
bracket challenge. Yeah.
Yes, and Kyle had one of Kyle's brackets finished dead last, and the loser had to take the Buffalo Wild Wings Blazing Challenge. But since we taped our radio show back then, the Buffalo Wild Wings, and
that was brutal. That was the most brutal display of endurance I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I finished them all, and they still wouldn't let me. They still wouldn't give me the shirt
because you drank milk at after wing number 9.
Well, I don't care. That's a load of nonsense. And the fact that you got to sign a waiver. Well, the pain wasn't until the day after.
Yeah. Okay, looking at the schedule, hey, if you're not already a Prime Video subscriber, you need to either find a friend who is or go to Buffalo Wild Wings. They're not a sponsor, but they could be, or your other favorite sports establishment that has the Thursday night game, because the Washington Commanders are going north to take on the suddenly scary Green Bay Packers. And as much as I hate to do it, man, the Packers looked like world beaters against Detroit last week, so I'm picking them to beat Washington.
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers made the Detroit Lions turn back into the Detroit Kitty Cats. Go ahead.
Kyle, who do you have? Washington at Green Bay.
God, I love some Jaden Daniels, but I got told by one of my buddies out here, and he's a coach for Carthage baseball and football, big Packers fan, and he said, "Dude, did you see that the Packers were lining up Micah Parsons at D tackle?" And I'm like, "What kind of Frankenstein mess are they cooking up there? That's terrifying."
Yeah, they're sending Micah wherever they think he can get to the quarterback.
Good night in heaven. And I think that might be too much even for Jaden Daniels and that offense, which we all know has just elite ability. Plus the Packers are at home and it's a primetime game, and you know how hard it is to win in Lambeau. I got the Pack.
Our next game, this starts the Sunday early schedule. The Jacksonville Jaguars go into Cincinnati to take on the Bengals.
Bengals, if Josh Hines-Allen doesn't get his hands on Joe Burrow, because good Lord, he got annihilated Sunday by Myles Garrett.
I'm taking the Jags. Bengals haven't
Okay.
Bengals haven't showed me anything. The Jaguars looked frisky. Granted, it was against Carolina, but they still played a really good game. And right now, just in terms of who do I think is going to have a better game as quarterback, right now, I trust Trevor Lawrence more than I trust early season Joe Burrow. Now, if this is week 10, it's a different story. But we all know how bad the Bengals are in the first 4 games of the season, so I can
They are
definitely
notoriously slow starters.
Yeah, I could definitely see Cincy going into a big home opener and it's like, hey, we beat Cleveland, we got the monkey off the back, and the Jags don't have anything to lose. Go into Cincy and play with house money. Here's another team that has nothing to lose: the New York Giants going into Dallas to play the Cowboys. Now, I'm picking the Cowboys to win because they looked better than I thought they would last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. But the wild card in this is who the Giants are going to start at quarterback. If they start Russell Wilson, they have no chance of winning this game. If they start Jackson Dart, which is what I think that they should do and that they might do, they probably won't win the game, but at least they won't look like a pile of dog turds, which is what Russell Wilson's career has come to. It's a bag of dog poo. He's terrible.
It was awful watching him play against Washington Sunday. And honestly, the one thing that the Giants do have going for them is their front four. That pass rush is vicious. I will give them all of that. But Dallas is at home. I really believe that this team is going to play their guts out in spite of Jerry, and I'm not going to use the nickname I got for him on this here show. We are a family friendly show. But they're going to be at home. They're getting 5.5. I got the Giants winning this game, and maybe CeeDee Lamb gets his hands back.
Yeah. The Bears, after suffering that tough loss at home to my Vikings, their road does not get any easier. They're going to Detroit to take on the Lions, so back-to-back divisional games for the Bears and the Lions. I imagine Dan Campbell is going to have whips and thumb screws in practice this week to get the Lions fired up for this. I think it's going to be a day of doom for Caleb Williams. I'm taking the Lions to evolve from last week's Kitty Cats and take the win over the Bears.
Definitely, I think that was a wake up call loss at Green Bay, and they're going home, and Detroit's established their home front as a really tough place to play. They're not gonna let those fans down. So I got the Lions to cover.
I do too, and I also think the Cowboys are probably going to beat the Giants, but you never know. I do like that Giants defense.
We've already picked the Rams-Titans game. Our next game is Patriots going south to the Dolphins. The Patriots did not look nearly as good as I expected them to in week 1, but
they didn't. Yeah, but they didn't look as bad as Dolphins.
Yeah, the Dolphins look like the Dolphins. That is one of the worst football teams I've seen in the past 10 years. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on in Miami, and now you have this compounded by the fact that Tyreek Hill has been accused of domestic violence by his wife. So, he's bringing more turmoil into that locker room. The Patriots are going to win this game going away.
You know what? And I think they're really going to do it with the running game. Ramondre Stevenson. This is not New England with Brady, who for some reason always struggled in Miami. Mike Vrabel is really reshaping what New England wants to be as a football team. And I think they're going to be nose to the ground, really physical, and they're going to own the line of scrimmage because Miami is a team that is not built to stop the run. And they're not going to sell this game out. Miami gets a 1.5, but good grief. I got New England by 6, at least 6 points.
Yeah, I totally, if I gambled on football, I would totally take that action.
I agree. I'm taking the Patriots to win this one. 49ers and Saints, the Niners have got some injury news, but I still think they're good enough to go into Nolans and beat the Aints.
Yeah, Purdy is questionable. I think Mac Jones is capable of running Kyle Shanahan's offense, and the Saints are just offensive. They're going to miss George Kittle, but they still have more than enough weapons to beat the Saints, even though they will be on the road.
And granted, New Orleans did play Arizona tough. They fought to the end. Spencer Rattler didn't look awful. However, we know what the game is. It's a fistful of CMC and a fistful of Fred Warner. Niners on the road. They're going to win big.
Well, I mean, and the the Niners defense throttled Seattle on the road, and I think we would all agree that Seattle is a better roster, a better team than do the Saints. So I think the 49ers defense is going to be more than enough to take this game on the road. We have this year's future pending Super Bowl champion, the Buffalo Bills. I believe everyone has already coronated them as the winners this year. So why even bother play the season? Well, that's because the Bills have a notorious record of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Not this week, though. They're going into New Jersey to play the Jets. While the Jets looked much better in a hard-fought loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they simply won't be enough for Josh Allen and the Bills. Buffalo takes this by at least a touchdown or more.
I think so, too.
Yeah, ditto. Mike, what's your thoughts on this one?
I think it could be a good game, but I don't think the Jets have the horsies to beat the Bills.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they do yet, but they look really, really sharp. I was more impressed with how the Jets played against the Steelers than the Steelers winning that game. And you saw a lot of strides from Justin Fields and getting lined up, getting his chemistry down with Garrett Wilson. However, it's Josh Allen and Bills.
Here's the thing about the Jets. They have the right coach now in Aaron Glenn. I think he's going to be a good coach for them. Even if they don't have a winning season, I think if he's good for 8 or 9 games, they're really on the right track. And I think Justin Fields is an effective quarterback in running the system that they have there in New York. But I think they're still at least a year or two away from getting back to the playoffs.
Yeah, very promising, but not this Sunday.
Yeah. Let's see, a couple more early games. Seahawks are traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. I hate to pick Aaron, but
I know.
Aaron looked like prime Aaron last week, and I think even Jets level Aaron is enough to beat an anemic Seahawks defense. And what are they doing in Seattle? Set Sam Darnold free, turn him loose. That's what he's best at doing, is chucking the ball downfield. So send Jackson Smith-Njigba out deep and, put the ball in the air. Come on, guys. What are you doing?
I got no clue with the Seahawks. And, of course, I don't want to pick Aaron Rodgers, but I also don't want to pick the Seahawks. So in a perfect world, for me, this game's a tie, and I hate everyone. No, my only concern with the Steelers is I saw a Steelers team that can't run the football.
Yeah.
What world is this?
Yeah, which irritates me because they drafted Caleb Johnson, who is something he was a running back that I had hoped might end up falling to the Vikings. He would have been a better third-round pick so far, at least, than Ty Felton is turning out to be. I know that's early, but would have been nice to get more. But, I mean, he only had like one carry for -2 yards for the Steelers, so it's like...
Yeah, I expected him to be the RB1, honestly, going into that game.
Yeah, I did too. So, I don't know, maybe they'll give him more time against the Sea Chickens. Mike, you taking Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Okay. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this next one. The Browns are going to Baltimore to face the Ravens, where they will lose by 4 touchdowns at minimum.
The Browns are back to being the Browns. The Browns blew a game against Cincinnati Sunday, and the Browns are back to being the Browns. The Browns and the Saints are going to battle for the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah. The Ravens,
the Browns should have won that game.
They should
have.
They
had every instance. But I saw when they lined up to kick that field goal, I said, I think they're about to brown.
Yeah, Browns
I really
browning.
think they're about to brown.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's in the uniforms. They're playing on essentially a sacred Indian burial ground known as Cleveland Municipal Stadium. They are surrounded by bad karma.
Yeah.
It could be Mahomes right now with prime Jettas in those uniforms, something bad happens.
Yeah, something bad
Ravens
happens.
by 4 touchdowns.
At least that's going to be an absolute bloodbath. So we've got 3 evening games and then the Sunday night game to talk about. Denver's going into Indy to take on a Colts team that really looks like a potential force this year. We'll see if they're for real or not. But based on each team's performance from last week, I'm going to give the edge to Indy at home.
I'm going to take in the game of the Horsies versus the Horsies. I'm taking the Orange Horsies, Broncos.
This one could be really, really close. I could see this being a one-possession game decided late. If Indianapolis shows a shred of what we got Sunday against Miami, I think they can win this ball game. I don't believe the Colts roster is bad. It's just the quarterback situation is always in flux. But Daniel Jones was the best Daniel Jones any of us have ever seen.
Yeah, let's see if he can put it together 2 weeks in a row. I'm betting that he will. Moving on, Panthers travel to the Valley of the Sun to take on the Cardinals. I figured out, watching the highlights from that game, I figured out what Kyler Murray is. Kyler Murray is a Madden quarterback. He's like a character that you build in the Madden game, and you're a skilled video gamer, but you don't really know about football. But you've got this guy who's faster than everyone else, so he just runs all over the field. And sometimes you chuck the ball downfield if you can find a receiver, and sometimes you run, but it's not sustainable. I mean, it's like you cannot build a championship team around a 5'8" quarterback who plays the way he does. Having said that, he's got enough to beat the Panthers because Bryce Young looks like a bust again, unfortunately.
Yeah, he looked awful against Jacksonville. Arizona also has enough weapons offensively. Marvin Harrison Jr. looked good. Obviously, James Conner, Trey McBride. There's enough for Arizona to win this one at home, and I think they'll cover. And don't be surprised if this winds up being, a 3-possession defeat for Carolina. They're going to be in the top 3 of the draft again.
Yeah.
This isn't working for Carolina. I got Arizona to cover.
Yeah, that, and Carolina's just an awful franchise. I know, they had some success back with Cam Newton. They had some glory years with the Panthers, even made it to a Super Bowl. But they have really just been the dregs of the league for the past 10, 15 years. Really, since Cam Newton left that team, they have just been cover your eyes awful with just no hope at all. Speaking of no hope, the Eagles travel to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch.
You're burying them already.
Oh, I am, absolutely. Yes. That is my number one overreaction to Week 1. The Chiefs aren't making the playoffs, and they're not going to beat the visiting Eagles either,
so
even if they are playing
with
at
my
home.
hot take.
That was like the first thing that I said Friday night. It was like overreaction number 1. The Chiefs aren't making the playoffs.
Not against the schedule, and not against all the weaknesses that they're having to face. And now no Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, it is. Brett Veach isn't going to have a choice after this season. He's going to have to jettison all of his veterans and start rebuilding. Now, Mahomes is still young enough that they can be an average team for 2 or 3 years. Well, with Veach, it'll probably just take 1 year off, and then they'll be competing again. But they're not competing for a championship with this roster, not against the rest of the competition in the AFC. They're just not.
No, and you still have on your schedule. You still got to play Baltimore, and not only that, out of division, you got the Commanders, and I believe they play Detroit again.
Yeah. Plus
their division, you got to see the Chargers again. I'm not saying if they win, I'm not surprised because they're at home. However, nothing about the Eagles personnel changed from last year. This is still the same defense that bullied and emasculated you without blitzing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. At the same time, this is the NFL, so the Chiefs could win by 2 touchdowns.
How much devil magic do they still have over at Arrowhead that they stole from the St. Louis Cardinals?
I don't know. Mike, are you going to say anything about Kansas City's secret weapon up there in the luxury suite?
I don't know if having the Swift is going to be enough to beat the Eagles, but We will see.
The Sunday night game, I will be tuning in for this at least early, and I should probably stay late. The Falcons travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings.
Go Vikings!
Yeah, I think this is a great matchup. I really like Michael Penix Jr. I really loved the way he played his last year at college in Washington. I think he's going to develop into a great quarterback. I don't think he's there yet. He's never faced Brian Flores' defense. Something interesting that came out of that game, the Vikings rushed 4 players much of the night with Grenard and Van Ginkel on the outside, and then Gravedigger and John Allen on the inside. But Caleb was just too athletic for them. He kept getting away from him. And finally, Flores just had enough of it. And in the fourth quarter, when they needed him to, he started bringing his crazy blitzes, and that's when Caleb short-circuited. I think he's going to learn from that. I think Flores is going to bring the house from the opening drive against Penix. And the juice in that building after the win last night for McCarthy is going to be unbelievable. It is the Vikings, so it's going to be a one-possession win, but it is going to be a win for them at home.
Believe it or not, I have this game actually as a shootout. I finally got to watch Michael Penix in action against Tampa Bay Sunday, and I truly believe he has the ability to be a left-handed Warren Moon. The ball just flies out of his hands so seamlessly and with so much velocity and precision, and he's got excellent weapons in Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and obviously him and Bijan Robinson already have one-to-one chemistry. Yeah. Plus, the Falcons actually had the highest success rate of pressures of any team during week 1. And the Falcons have notoriously had issues with getting to the quarterback. They're ranked dead last in the NFL in combined sacks over the last 20 seasons. So to actually see them apply sustained pressure on Baker Mayfield is a big plus. I'm not saying that is going to happen against your offensive line. Very well could. However, I really believe this game could turn into a shootout. You've got a big-time showdown of Atlanta's secondary against your receivers, Justin Jefferson going against A.J. Terrell and Jesse Bates. That's big time.
Yeah.
And if this is a one-possession game, I will take you guys because Younghoe Koo got himself shell-shocked Sunday.
Yeah, that was just a terrible miss for that guy. Unless it's a team that I just despise, I always feel sorry for kickers who miss those, potential game-tying, game-winning field goals at the end. It's just heartbreaking for those guys. I think getting back to your previous comment, I think the Vikings have a much better O-line than does Tampa Bay. Hopefully Christian Darrisaw will return. That's something we didn't talk about earlier. They decided to hold Darrisaw out. He's still coming back from that ACL, MCL tear in his left knee. So hopefully they will decide that he is healthy enough to play to shore up that offensive line. Rookie Donovan Jackson evidently had a PFF score above 90, so he's really showing some remarkable play. We'll keep our eye on Ryan Kelly, our new center, who did go into the medical tent and reportedly had x-rays after the game. It's just, I love Ryan Kelly, but he's 32 years old, and he's like Samuel L. Jackson's character in Night Shyamalan's movie Unbreakable. His bones are made of glass, and they're just liable to shatter at any time. It's like, oh, please, Ryan, just keep it together a little bit longer. But I think what happened last night is that we've unlocked J.J. McCarthy. I think that that Kevin O'Connell is going to have the confidence just to turn the kid loose right from the outset. It's like, we don't have to baby him. We don't have to have the training wheels on him. He can just go ahead and chuck that ball downfield. We've also unlocked Jordan Mason in our running game, and I think he's going to pound the rock against that Falcons defense.
I think the Vikings are going to win this one. I think it's going to be a little, or not as close as Mark thought. I think it's going to be a little bigger margin. We have 2 games on Monday night, and the big game is going to be the early game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Houston Texans. That's going to be on ABC and ESPN. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think I don't believe in the Texans this year. I think their offensive line is totally suspect. They still have a good defense, but I'm not sure that C.J. Stroud can carry this team with the dearth of weapons that they have on offense. On the other hand, Buccaneers are an experienced team. Mayfield has shown that he has what it takes, not just to win games, but to win close games. So I really see the Bucs going into Houston and taking this one.
And then we have go ahead.
That one does. Oh, sorry, Mike. I just gotta say that one does hurt my heart. But I gotta say, Emeka Egbuka is going to be a problem in the NFL. He looked great against Atlanta Sunday. And when you have a guy like that in the slot with Evans and Godwin, that Tampa could very well have a top 5 offense this year. I got the Bucs.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of Egbuka, the other big wide receiver, who got first round publicity, Mizzou's own Luther Burden. As far as I can tell, the only thing that he did was return a kickoff last night. Is Chicago not using him in their offensive set? Why are they not giving Caleb someone else to throw to, especially someone like Luther, who's a possession receiver and a master at yards after the catch?
Because he essentially right now is their 5th pass catching option. DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland. And then DeAndre Swift can catch out of the Bears have too many guys who can catch, who can make plays in the passing game. But what I would do with Luther, gadget guy.
Yeah.
Just get him the ball.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Well, and the other thing that Ben Johnson is going to have to work at is Caleb's accuracy. Now we saw, what Caleb does best is escape and improvise, and he made some amazing plays last night, getting free, using his legs, throwing on the run, and there's no way to defend against that. But his accuracy is so bad. I mean, he sailed the ball over so many open receivers last night, especially in the second half, when all they needed was one more score to put that game away. So
he's got to simplify his game and not try to play hero ball.
Mm-hmm. The late game next Monday night, the Chargers, who really impressed in that win in Brazil over Kansas City, are going into Sin City to take on a Raiders team that looked pretty impressive on the road against the Patriots. I think they're going to come back to earth. The Chargers are just a much better team than the Raiders, and I think Jim Harbaugh definitely has Pete Carroll's number. I mean, he certainly did when it was Frisco against Seattle back in the day. So I'm giving the edge to the visitors. I think the Chargers are going to win this game by 4 or 5 points over the Raiders.
I'll take the Chargers, too.
I got the Raiders covering, too. Mikey, what do you think?
I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah. You know what? I know it's going to be a stiff challenge going against a much better defense than New England, but Geno Smith did go for over almost 400 yards this past Sunday. Ashton Jeanty didn't really get going, but I think the Raiders are going to be super fired up. I'm taking them in an upset.
Oh,
I really am.
That's a great pick. It is in my best fantasy interest to root for the Chargers because Omarion Hampton is on my fantasy list. He had an okay game, but hopefully he'll be able to do a little bit more.
I like him a lot
defense.
for that. I think he's a great fit for the Chargers.
Okay, our last item of business in the NFL are Week 1 overreactions. So I've already given you mine. My biggest overreaction that the Chiefs are not making the playoffs this season. Kyle, what's yours?
The Miami Dolphins are going to get the number 1 pick in the 2026 NFL draft and not draft Arch Manning, but likely Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU. I love Tua. Great dude. When he's healthy, he can be a really good contributor and lead an offense. I think injuries have piled up. It's too much. It's over.
I think it's really likely, as bad as the Dolphins look, that Tua takes a big hit, another concussion that actually ends his season and his career this year. And that would actually be a roster benefit for Miami because they could get out of cap hell with that ridiculous contract that they gave to Tua. And if they can get out from under that, I'm not saying you wish for that to happen. Obviously, we don't wish injury on anybody. But I mean, it's like the most lukewarm take in the world to say Tua is going to get concussed this season.
It's terrifying because we've seen instances of him not being able to stand up and being woozy. He's already not a very physically imposing guy to where he can take bigger hits, say like a Matthew Stafford or guys of that ilk. So you've got to be really, really careful with him. But I really worry, and I think this is his last year as the starter for Miami.
My quick overreaction: the Carolina Panthers are going to get the number 1 pick.
That is possible. That is definitely possible.
Mike, they couldn't win the ACC right now.
Oh my gosh!
All right, quick preview of college football. Mizzou is playing Louisiana. That's going to be a blowout win for the Tigers.
The good old Raging Cajuns. This Red Wolf is heavily rooting for that whooping.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Kyle's matchup in a bit because Kyle's got a good one. My Nebraska Cornhuskers are playing another team they ought to kill. They killed Akron this past weekend, and they get to kill Houston Christian this weekend and get to 3-0. But of our schools, the big game is coming up Saturday in Jonesboro when Kyle's Arkansas State Red Wolves play host to the Iowa State Cyclones, who are fresh off winning the Cy-Hawk Trophy.
Oh man,
just that. This is only the second time we have hosted a ranked opponent. This is the third time we've hosted a ranked opponent in Jonesboro. The last time was Coastal Carolina. But I distinctly remember in 2014, we hosted ranked Missouri, and Mizzou only escaped Jonesboro losing by 1 possession. And Gary Pinkel said, "I don't ever want to have to come back here again." Because we wound up going on to win the Sun Belt. I believe it was our third Sun Belt title in 4 years at that time. Yes, we are coming off of a very, very harsh loss to the Razorbacks. Thank goodness the game finally happened. I think everybody in the state is ecstatic the game happened. It was great for everyone. But we are 20.5-point underdogs. Iowa State comes in ranked 14th. They have a hell of a quarterback in Rocco Becht. If that name rings a bell, his father's Anthony Becht, former Jets tight end and head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Oh, awesome.
I love watching Iowa State play. They're super disciplined. They don't beat themselves, and they're a very, very physical team. So it's going to be a huge challenge, but also a great opportunity. That game will be on ESPN2, so it's a nationally televised game. So that'll be a huge opportunity. The Red Wolves are capable of pulling off an upset. They really, really are. We won 8 games last year, and the program has gone to back-to-back bowls. Butch Jones has upward momentum. It's a lot to ask of a team that, by a lot of accounts, is projected to win the Big 12.
That would be so much fun to watch an upset. And, coming from my background in the old Big 12, all apologies to college bud Bill Williams, who's spent the past 30 years in Ames. I'll really be just happy as a clam to see the Red Wolves knock off the Cyclones.
And you know what's cool? If we do, we can storm the field and not get fined. SEC. Mississippi State got fined $500,000 for their upset win over Arizona State. Yeah. By the way, did you guys know the new rule in the SEC? If you storm the field of play after a game, not only do you get fined, the money you get fined goes to the opposing school.
Yeah, it's they're definitely incentivizing schools to make sure that that something like that doesn't happen. I will say my other favorite thing in college football is the emergence of Bo Perbula as Missouri's QB1.
Yes, sir. I believe in Bo.
Yeah, he really was. He was kind of an unknown quantity. We knew that he was highly recruited. We knew that he came from a high quality Penn State program, but he has really impressed in his first 2 games, and I think he's gonna take out the whooping stick to old Louisiana this Saturday.
You sounded a little bit like Dusty Rhodes when you said that the whooping stick, baby. We gonna put the beat on the raging cages of Louisiana Lafayette, if you will, baby. No, I'm very excited about that. Plus, La, as we call him in Sunbelt country, is an absolute pain in my butt. And I can't. And although whenever Sunbelt schools play a ranked team, I'll root them on. But if you're playing Mizzou, no dice. Bo Prabula looks incredibly comfortable and poised in the pocket as a passer. That was my concern and a lot of people's concerns because he had the reputation of being an option guy, an RPO, run first, but he reads the field really well. And aside from that fumble against Kansas, he takes care of the ball. Guys like Brett Norfleet, who caught 2 touchdowns Saturday, they have great rapport with him. Kevin Coleman Jr., who was our big transfer on the offense in the portal at wide receiver, he loves catching balls from him. And also guys like Marquise Johnson and Daniel Blood. I think we have the most slept-on offense in the SEC because Mizzou being slept on is just, water is wet.
Yeah, that's an annual tradition. Although we did crack the AP top 25 at number 25. So
yes, we did.
Shout out to our friend Tucker, who hates the AP rankings. There is no description. With the white hot heat of 1,000 suns.
Well, the AP poll really doesn't carry a whole lot of weight to me unless you are a smaller school or someone fighting their way up, trying to get a piece of the pie, like a South Florida, which shout out to them, knocking off Florida. Billy Napier's probably going to get fired. And they go to number 5, Miami. To me, the polls don't really start to matter until we get into the CFP. Yeah. That's when you're talking to me. Yeah. Also, dear ESPN, for the following week, not this week, but next week, I know you can't go to the SEC every week, but there could be a really, really big game between 2 ranked schools in Columbia, Missouri, next Saturday. Some team named Missouri playing South Carolina.
Ooh, that's going to be a big one.
Yes, it will.
Fellas, we've been here for more than an hour. I got to get back to my day job while I still have one.
And I've got to get back to mine.
I'm tired, yo.
Yep, Kyle works nights, and I've got to do some work too, so that's our show for this week. Make sure and come back next week. We got some pretty cool things coming up. But I'm Mike Bueller.
I'm Mark Sanders.
And I'm Kyle Roberts.
And you have been listening to the Sports Desk with Mike, Mark, and Kyle.